So I was going to do another makeup and story time. That's kind of been my game plan for today. I had a topic in mind, and then I forgot what said topic was. Well, then let's just start with foundation while I'm thinking about a topic. I'm super good at this. Like, you guys don't even know how good I am at doing the stream thing. Oh, you know what would be really extra helpful? Like, I'm trying to do my makeup in the camera, but it might be more helpful to do it in the mirror. Okay, that makes life easier. Oh, you know what? I remember what the topic was. I like to pretend I can do makeup. That's about how good we are here. I was asked to actually talk about how Kim and I met. I figure that's an easy enough story to talk about. It's a really simple story. There's not a lot to it. So I was going on vacation, going to my first YaoiCon, and I show up there as Anbu Sasuke, because at that time I was still already into like doing unique costumes, and there weren't really like Anbu costumes at the time for sale or anything, so I just made it. And like, I think I was still trying to wear a wig. No, wait, I had already cut my hair. I had initially tried to do a wig, but the wig made me really, really mad because it was just not a good quality wig to begin with, and there weren't like a whole lot of types of wigs that I would want to use for that particular cosplay. So I just didn't really have a lot of options back then. You know, we had like Amphigory and that was it. The end. No more. Anyways, I ended up cutting my hair to look like Sasuke, so. Kids these days don't know how good they got it. Here's the thing. Like, I walked into Michael's the other day, and there is a whole section for like Orbla and like craft foam dowels and squared craft foam dowels and like small and different diameters and like tons of rolls of craft foam. Do you know how hard that stuff was to get back in the day? And it's not even that expensive in Michael's, surprisingly. This just blows my mind that there's all these really cool new conveniences for everyone. And I think Kim said it the other day when she was like, well, we crawled so they could fly. Like, swear. I mean, it's accurate. So, right, YaoiCon. It wasn't my first convention. 2003 Anime Expo was my first convention. It was my first YaoiCon specifically because I was, you know, underage before then. See, it was 2003. I had just moved out on my own, and well, I had moved from Washington to Salt Lake City, and then but I had made all my money in Washington, and then I used that money to buy a plane ticket in advance from Salt Lake City to California and back. I paid for a plane ticket by belly dancing and collecting tips and reading tarot and collecting tips, and I had earned enough to earn a plane ticket from Salt Lake City to California and back. And I went to my first convention, which was Anime Expo 2003 when it was still in Anaheim, and that was a blast. And then I was like, I have to go back to these. I have to do this again. I have to. This is my new calling in life. Time is a weird thing. I'm at YaoiCon and I'm showing up for the first time, and I'm like, yeah, this is fun. And I'm standing there as Anbu Sasuke, and then I'm in the lobby of the hotel. I can't quite remember what hotel this was in. This was like way before it went to any of the modern hotels it's at. It never went back after that first year. Well, my first year, it never went back to that particular hotel. It was an SF closer to the airport. I think it was actually like 2 different hotels that you had to travel back and forth to, like the Claritin or something. So I met Alex in AX of that same year. And then I saw Alex again at YaoiCon that same year when I was on vacation. And he actually ended up staying with us in our hotel room because something happened with his hotel room. And so then he ended up crashing in my hotel room for like a night post-con or whatever. That YaoiCon, I'm standing, I think it was day 1, pretty sure it was day 1, standing in the hotel lobby, and across the lobby I see I see a Naruto cosplayer. I think to myself, that one's gonna be mine. No reason for these thoughts, just I like this person, I want them, they will be mine, the end. And that was the entire thought process that I had. However, because I'm an effing weirdo, I like had refused to interact with them. So I just sort of like stood across the lobby and pretended not to notice them, because that's what normal people do, right? I all tsundere that shit. Just I don't see you. Yeah. What are you talking about? Notice me, senpai. Please notice me. But I don't want to work for that. I don't want you to know that I want you to notice me. I just want you to notice me. So stupid. I hang out in the lobby because I'm like, oh, I really like them. I really do want them to notice me. This was before the Notice Me Senpai meme, I swear. Baka. This is like 2006. At least it was before I had ever heard of the Notice Me Senpai meme, which I don't even actually remember when that came out. I pretend to ignore them for a while, and I see them crawl underneath the piano. I don't really think anything of it. I'm just like, oh, they're under the piano, and they're like surrounded by these other cosplayers who are like, oh, trying to get their attention, and are like really into them. And I'm like, well, I don't want to be a fangirl. I'm not gonna like fight for their attention. I'm not about that life. If they're gonna give me their attention, they're gonna give me their attention. I don't want to have to like fight a million girls for this attention. I hang out in the lobby, and then someone had pulled out this giant roll of paper for different artists to just draw on and play on in the lobby. I saddle on up next to this Naruto cosplayer and start to draw next to them. In actuality, like, I don't remember how even the conversation started or how we ended up even talking to one another, because I don't remember how that happened. Either way, we end up like talking a little bit, and I found out their name and like who they were and blah blah blah, and it was Nar. I say a lot, and I need to like learn to cut that out of my vocabulary, because it gets really annoying when I have to go back into editor and cut out 60,000 ums, because that's all I can seem to say. We kind of make friends, and then I sort of see them around through, see, there's the M again. I see them around through the convention as the days go on, and I'm interacting with all these other people, and I think it's really interesting because at one point I was I don't know if Kim actually knows this story. I was flirting with this Itachi, not Utachi. And it's fine, it's whatever. And I'm like, oh yeah, they're kind of cool, and you know, they're interested in me. That's interesting. Blah blah blah. But then I see the Naruto cosplayer again, and I think to myself, this is a crossroads in my life. I either go with this Itachi, or I go chase down this Naruto that I like. And then I was like, I'm gonna chase down the Naruto. So I did. I end up somehow waiting outside the masquerade, because I think I couldn't get in because it was overcrowded. So I was just sort of like hanging out outside the doors of the masquerade with people. And at that point, I believe Naru came out to like use the restroom or something. And we ended up seeing each other again. And I was like, hi! And this is where we started having like our first real conversation with one another, where we're talking about just life and things, you know. They were talking about how they had lost like $400 or something in a wallet. And people were like, oh no, you can't spend any more money on, you know, anime stuff at the convention anymore. And my first response was, oh my God, are you gonna be okay to pay rent? Because I was under the assumption everyone of a certain age had moved out, because it was kind of a standing rule that the moment you turn 18, you had to get out of the house. That was just it. You had to move, which I guess isn't a thing for everyone, or most people for that matter. But Kim had already been living on her own for a little bit then, because Kim moved out when she was 18, and I moved out when I was 17, and Kim is roughly about a year older than I am. We both got understood like the whole having to be able to afford rent, having to be able to live, eat, have toiletries. That's the weirdest one. I think that was the thing that surprised me the most, was having to buy toilet paper, because for some reason it just never occurred to me that buying toilet paper was a thing until I had been moved out and living with some roommates on my own. And then I was like, oh my God, you have to buy toilet paper. Everything else, yeah, you have to pay rent, you have to pay utilities, you have to pay all these other bills. Yeah, that all makes sense. But for some reason, toilet paper escaped me until it was time to buy toilet paper in my first apartment, of which I couldn't sign the lease because I was only 17, and that was its own huge dramatic problem. I think it'd be better if I go over it later. The drama of moving out and living on your own when you are not of age to do so. It's a nightmare, especially because when you move to another state, they tend to not want to give you a job because they want to give jobs to the people who live in state first. So when you first move to another state, if you don't have a job or a sponsor or someone who can help you, it becomes problematic because you have a very difficult time living, period. And I had saved up a bunch of money from when I had a job. When I was still in high school, I'd saved up a bunch of money, and I ended up spending like all of my savings to pay for rent for those first few months when I was trying to live in Utah, which was a mistake in and of itself because I was a goth at the time. Living in Orem Provo, Utah. Orem Provo is kind of the, it's where BYU and Utah State are really big, and I'm not a Mormon, nor am I any particular Christian-esque religion. I'm very much a heathen. Grew up with a witch. So that was problematic, being gothic and a heathen and trying to get a job, and it was a nightmare. So I didn't get a job. I kind of lived off of handouts and whatever I could make money stretch as far as possible. It was not a good time in life. Anyway, so during all of this, blah, go to my first convention, hang out, yada yada, I eventually moved to Bothell for a long time. And then I got a job in West Seattle, so I ended up moving out to West Seattle. And the job I got was right next to where I lived at the time. And that's when I had this little, like, loft flat. And that was the whole, that's where the rat in my toilet story came from, which I went over in a live stream. It's posted on my channel somewhere, and I'm not going to go over it again. But essentially, I woke up to a live rat in my toilet. The lid was closed, so the rat came up through the pipes. It was an adventure. It was a horrifying adventure. So anyway, moved to Seattle, blah, blah, blah. Here we are. It is 2006. And I see this Naruto cosplayer I've never seen before, and I'm immediately smitten with them. And I want to get to know them more. Tra-la-la-la. We meet. We exchange information. We talk. We took some photos together. Also the first time that we kissed was in a photo because it was YaoiCon at the time. Why not? That made sense, right? Complete stranger. This is fine. So, right, we exchange information, and the thing I remember the most in this time that we were talking online was it was right before the new year. And I was getting calls from him, and we were chatting and all this other stuff, and you know, kind of discussing. And I think it was on a New Year's party that I sort of like ditched the party that was in the Skyrise, that I was hanging out with some friends, and I went to talk to Kim on the phone in a back bedroom or something, which made everybody super happy. But what the hell do I care? I had a major crush on this person, so we start talking, and then I don't remember how it got brought about, but I mentioned that, yeah, I'm into girls. I like women. And Nara was so surprised. Just, I didn't know that. And I was like, we kissed? How do you not know that? And she was like, I don't know, it was YaoiCon. People do weird things at YaoiCon. And I was like, but would straight people kiss each other just for a picture at YaoiCon? Maybe. It was very funny to me. So I was like, no, yeah, I 100% like women. In fact, and then I think it somehow came about that I was like, I like you. I believe by January we had started dating. So this was in a very short amount of time. So, like, we met in October, like October 27th, right? Ish, around that zone. We met in October at YaoiCon weekend, and then we started dating January, the following January. And we dated online. We ended up, she ended up coming up and coming to SakuraCon with me, and then staying for a little bit after, and this is at the time I was still going to school then. I have a complicated relationship with school. Not that I wanted to have a complicated relationship with school, but because school was complicated for me to get into when you don't have family support or anything of the nature, but you still are technically considered a dependent, which doesn't make any sense because I was living on my own at that point and like had been living on my own for over a year, I think. 2 years, 3 years? God, how long was that? Math is hard. Yeah, the school system's broken. So school happened. And so she actually ended up coming with me to school. And at the time I was taking a history of the Holocaust course, which is this really intensive, it's one course worth 3 courses, like 3.5 courses or something like that. So like you get all these credits combined and then you break it up into different credits for different sections. And that was a lot. I didn't even think about how like difficult that must be to like take someone to go to a history of the Holocaust course. I just didn't even think about that being a thing. Whoops. Probably should have, but you know what? Whatever. Here we are. Those are not even. What am I even thinking? It's cool. It's fine. This is what it's gonna be. I love it. Whatever. We're dating, and then we had a conversation while she was up there for SoccerCon about, you know, marriage and the future and all that stuff, which in retrospect is a really early time because SoccerCon took place in like April? March? End of March, beginning of April, right? So at that point we had been officially dating for 3 months. And we're like talking about getting married because there's a joke amongst lesbians that, you know, you meet and then the next date, your second date, is a U-Haul. You're already moving in together. It's tragic. It's tragic because it's true, and it happened to literally like every other fucking lesbian that I know. Anyway. Right, so we're already talking about marriage at that point, 3 months into our relationship, because that's what you do. We were at a Taco Bell having this conversation, and like Kim looked up from our conversation, and this is when Taco Bell first came out with those packets that had like phrases on them, and one of the phrases was, "Will you marry me?" She picks up this packet and looks at me and hands it to me, and I was like, "You may not propose to me in a Taco Bell." Cutting it off there. I have standards, and that is not a Taco Bell standard. So, the romance. The romance. So she just kind of like, oh, puts the packet back down. And like, I love this woman with my entire heart and soul. This wonderfully on brand. I am just getting makeup everywhere right now. What is my life? Who am I? What is purple? Not my friend today. I feel like every time I try and do makeup to go on a stream, or while I'm doing makeup while I'm being filmed, I manage to somehow do something really wonky, like really mess up the colors or something, and I'm like, I swear I can do makeup well. I swear I'm not. Anyway, I have like 5 different highlighters because I'm really indecisive and don't know what I like. Do I like this highlighter? Do I like this other purple highlighter? Do I like... I just like things. I can't help it. So some time passes, and we are still talking about this, and then we were talking about, like, you know, maybe moving and like maybe me moving to California, because at the time I was still living in Seattle, and maybe if I moved to California, you know, it'd be healthy for our relationship because all this other stuff was going on. And like at one point we had an almost breakup in between then, not because we didn't like each other, but there was just all these other things that were happening at the time, and it just wasn't like a relationship between us problem. It was another kind of problem that I won't get into it, but anywho, so she's like, well, maybe we shouldn't see each other anymore. Maybe I shouldn't see any, and I was like, no. I deserve you in my life. So as long as I can help it, I want to keep you in my life. So you gotta stay. So she did. And then a bit later, I get a text, like a cell phone text, that's like, will you marry me? And I was like, you may not ask me to marry you over a text. This is... Taco Bell sauces, not okay. Texts, not okay. You just, no. So I said no again. Not that I would say no to her or the idea of it, just that I refuse to be proposed to over a text message. There was that. And oh my god, it's really hard to talk and do eyeliner at the same time. So a little more time passes, and it's not a whole lot more time, it's just a little more time passes. And this is when MySpace was really popular. And I hope to God people actually know what MySpace is, because I feel like a dinosaur saying this. But MySpace had this feature where you could have a profile message, like you could set your main message as a profile message. We are talking on MySpace, having a good time, blah, blah, blah. And then I wake up one morning and I see Kim had changed her status. And it was, Raven, will you marry me? And at that point, I thought, well, third time's a charm. I'm not going to get a traditional proposal at this point, and I know it. So I'm going to say, and then I changed my status to just yes. So then we were officially engaged and planning a wedding. And this at this point was summer. So we had started officially dating in January. We had met in October the previous year, and we were already engaged by summer. And I took a vacation to go meet Kim's friends and stuff like that down in California. Come on, eyeliner, today. You guys hear that hot rod? It is literally every time I try and film anything, they must know. Maybe it's like my direct share a wall neighbors, so like when they hear me streaming, they're like, quick, get out the car. Dude, could you imagine if you knew that some of your neighbors were streamers, and then you're just like, I'm gonna mess with them by driving my hot rod. Or motorcycle. Could be a motorcycle. Oh, hello. Way to be way off. Ugh. I'm trying to get these even, but my face doesn't like being even. Well, that's just gonna be that. So we get engaged. I had visited Kim prior to moving in. We had a good time. We did cosplay together because we're nerds, and that's how we do. I think that's when I figured out that Alex knew Kim for the first time, and it was kind of a surprise of like, hello, by the way, we have a mutual friend. And so I was like, oh, that's really cool. Who knew? Small world. Fancy that. So Alex was at the engagement party. Then I go back home, I make my final arrangements, and then with a minivan, just a singular minivan, I moved to NorCal from Seattle. And that was how I moved in with Kim, aka Naru, aka my wife, if you haven't caught on to that by now. Getting makeup even is really hard. I should do a purple lipstick. I think that would be fun. So by the fall, I move in September. So Kim and I move in together in September. Shortly before we had planned the wedding to be at YaoiCon, because we're both poor and we don't really have family per se. So we were planning to have basically a surprise pop-up wedding where our friends are, which made sense at the time. So, you know, we just randomly threw out, hey, we're gonna have a quick little ceremony at YaoiCon. We'll let you know where when we figure it out. Such a disaster. So we get there and we're like looking for some place to have this wedding, this pop-up wedding, because we don't really want it in our room, and maybe not necessarily in the lobby, but like, you know, somewhere where it's not being inconvenient or taking up a lot of space for everybody else. And then someone pointed out the fact that there wasn't any events happening in the courtyard outside at this XYZ time. And we were like, oh, that's perfect. No one's going to be there. There's no events happening. It's not going to be in the way. We could just have a really quick pop-up wedding. My friend, you know, became ordained for this, and we can just do this, and that will be fun, and it won't be a problem, right? Oh, what did I know? About the time that we decided, we go and we get ready. Kim has a suit. I made my own wedding dress. We get ready for the wedding, and we had other people coming, and they were in costume as well. And we show up to the courtyard ready to go and have this whatever wedding. And then as soon as we show up to the courtyard, we see that it is completely packed with the entire convention. Because it was where people were waiting to get in line for the masquerade. So the entire convention was there. Mostly the entire convention. Surprise! There are like 300-400 people or something like that, more, hanging out in this courtyard, and we're getting real nervous. And that's when the person who was marrying us at the time basically was like, we're gonna do this anyway. So they just go and they kick people out of the gondola, which I felt bad about, still do, but they kicked people out of the gondola and they're like, nope, we're having a wedding really quick, you can have this back in like 10 minutes. So she kicks people out, sets up these little like, you know, whatever, umbrellas and stuff to kind of give it a scenic background, and then we had a little music box playing music, and then there was a bunch of photographers there at the time, so they started taking photos, and from that point we had like a really quick pop-up wedding. And you know, we said our I do's and we did our kissy faces, and then the photographer asked to take some photos, so we took some photos, and you know, everyone there was being really cute and cheering and just being really generally nice about us, you know, having a surprise pop-up wedding there in the middle of the convention, which we really didn't mean to have it in the middle of the convention, but here we are anyway. Everyone was super duper nice about it. It was lovely, and that's kind of how a lot of people met us, was actually at our wedding at YaoiCon. Yeah, 2007. So we got married a year to the day that we met. So we got married on October 27th of 2007. So that's our story. That's how we got together. Gonna do lips and then we'll be done. So I'm gonna do purple. It was a fast get together, fast courtship, fast marriage, and here we are, 2020, still happily married. If you listen close, you can probably hear Kim in the background doing her own stream. And yeah, so that is my getting together with Kim's story, and we've just sort of lived with each other and been happy in love and married ever since. It's not entirely smooth. I want a smooth color. That's better. Definitely should have put on lighter first. My purple hair. And that is it. I probably could have done more, but here we are. Never know what to do with my hair. Don't you hate that? It's just, it's wet still, because I went to shower this morning and then I just threw it up. I was like, whatever, this is fine. So now my hair is just kind of a hot mess from being wet. So yeah, I guess I will call it the end. So this was my first stream that I will later turn into a video and put on YouTube, and I hope it was fun. I didn't advertise it anywhere because this is a hot mess disaster. Oh, well, there's a niche for hot mess disaster streaming.
Yeah. There
Okay.
really truly is.
Oh, you know, it'd be really fun. Let me just.
They don't like it.
So thanks for coming, everyone. I will stream again later, come up with a topic, and I will chat about it. That's it.